Coming up on the Delaware Way, autonomous cars are coming to Delaware soon, and Christiana Care has a new plan to fight the opioid crisis. This is the Delaware Way. Welcome to the Delaware Way. I'm Larry Manti. Newark, Delaware is going through some big changes. Here to talk about that is Acting City Manager Tom Coleman. It's interesting. Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
it's interesting when I saw a city manager, I said, wait a second, Newark has a mayor, right?
Yes.
And yet all of these projects have your name attached to it. All these projects seem to be, in the press article, seem to be quoting you. Let's start with the Rodney dorm site. It sounds like something's finally going to happen, right?
Hopefully, yes.
You have some proposals, you have some ideas.
Correct.
For what's good. So tell me about, is there one that you like better than the other ones?
Well, we went through the whole process with the public and determined 3 options, and I think the public decided on a good option. It was a nice balance of the lower cost option, which was option 1, which was basically just the stormwater pond and some trails, minimal trails, and then option 2 built on that with more parks features. So we have some interpretive signage that speaks about water quality and the ways that residents can do things to improve water quality in the watershed, has some playground features that will all be educationally based, a fishing pier, a little more aesthetic design to the pond itself. And then option 3 really built on that even more with more parks features and was about $2 million more than.
But not surprisingly, the public wants the cheapest one.
Well, no, the public took the medium option.
Oh, okay,
so, yeah,
all right.
So that was, I guess, a little surprising, but with the way that we're looking to fund this, which is through debt.
Let's stay
Okay,
on that for one
there.
second. The medium one. That is interesting to me because I thought you were just telling me that they were going for the least expensive one. No. What is it about the one that is being chosen by the public you think that they wanted so much over saving money?
Okay. Well, in the area, and this was something that I wasn't aware of when we started the project, the nearest park to this site is about a 15-minute walk away. So as we got into it and we started mapping our parks, there's a pretty big hole in the downtown where there's no parks features. So I think a lot of the residents that came to our meetings lived in the immediate vicinity and recognized the lack of adequate parks availability for people close to that location. So I think they were looking for a full-featured park similar to what we have elsewhere in the city in this location. So I think that's what drove a lot of their desires to have some more parks features there.
And when is everything going to start happening?
So our referendum is scheduled for June 19th, and assuming that they give us the go-ahead there. Now, I should say we've already started a lot of work. So we had to do due diligence. The site is a brownfield. We've identified asbestos and some other contaminants that will have to be remediated. So over the last year and a half, we've been doing research, investigations, determining what's there, so we could get an accurate price estimate for the project. So,
what is the accurate price estimate for the project?
So right now it's around $8.1 million all in for option 2, which is the one that the public decided they wanted to move forward with. So that about $4.2 million of that is sunk cost in the acquisition of the property, remediation of environmental concerns, and the demolition of the building to get it ready to build the stormwater feature and the parks feature.
So everything goes as planned, and say the referendum is fine. When will this happen?
So we would look to start our environmental remediation over the winter. Asbestos is a common issue. A lot of times it's in schools, so the demand for asbestos remediation is highest over the summer. So we want to avoid those summer months when costs will be higher. So our hope would be to do the environmental remediation over the winter, demolition in the spring, early summer, and then the rest of the construction through the end of 2019 and into the beginning of 2020.
You were talking about parks. Is the paving on Main Street finished?
It is not. So that will start this fall and run for about a year also.
And then there's something that you want to, that the city wants to add called Parklets, and that's
Yes.
the first time I've ever heard of this. And these are tiny parks that extend off the street?
Yeah, so there's a lot of, I guess, a lot of misunderstanding around what they are. So what we had proposed, there are a lot of locations on Main Street where there's yellow curb or fire hydrants or areas right next to crosswalks where you really don't want people to park, and they're not allowed to park now. But people do, and they illegally park there, and it either blocks a hydrant or it hides people that are trying to cross at the crosswalk, so they're less visible to vehicles coming down the road. So what we're proposing is, in those locations where the curb's yellow and you're not supposed to park anyway, moving it from its current location out to the travel lane to prevent people from being able to park there in the first place. So just make it so take it off the table for illegal parking in those locations. So we identified a few areas where there's really no downside to putting some benches, maybe some landscaping to make it more inviting and help make Main Street a nicer place to visit.
What I was going to say to you immediately is it seems like it's taking away parking spots. And from what your answers, since you addressed that so many times, that must have been a big concern from residents too, is that they were taking away parking spots. Is there sufficient parking even, I know you're saying about taking away parking spots. Is there sufficient parking?
So I will say after the project is done, there will be more parking than there is there today. But one issue that we got into is once you start striping on-street parking with meters, you actually, if you do a resurfacing, you have to add dedicated accessible parking spaces, so handicap accessible. Right now, the city doesn't have any handicap accessible parking spaces. Our rule is if you have a hang tag or a handicap plate, you can park in any of the meters on Main Street and you don't have to pay. But we don't actually have any accessible spaces with ramps that will allow you to get up on the curb safely. So no matter what, if we did our project or not, we were going to have to actually develop legitimate handicap accessible spaces on Main Street. So there would be an impact to how the parking is one way or the other.
So somebody that's not disabled that has a car will have fewer parking spaces?
So yes, so there will be, we're picking up 4.
And they're going to point to these parklets, even though you've explained they're not. So that's why they're a little bit controversial. The other thing was that I guess something must have come up that they thought the homeless would be sleeping on the benches you'd put there. And so you're making the benches so that they can't be slept on?
Well, we haven't picked a bench design yet, but that's always a concern, is not only homeless people sleeping on them, but anybody sleeping on them.
Well, that's what the article specifically pointed out. That's why I'm saying it.
We're in a college town. We could have kids sleeping on them, college kids, after the bars close. Plus, having backs, it obscures the view of what's going on the other side of the bench if, as our police officers work up and down the street. So we're looking at various bench designs. Probably we'll end up with a backless bench design, maybe with a center divider. But like I said, we're very
center divider is for the sleep.
Yes.
That's so people can't lay out.
You can't lay across them.
We're running out of time. I'm not going to be able to talk to you about the workers survey, which I wanted to bring up as well, but maybe when you come back, maybe another time. I'd appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Thanks for talking to me. Acting City Manager in Newark, Tom Coleman. When we come back, a longtime House representative in the State House is retiring, and a familiar face is running for his seat. We'll talk to him when the Delaware Way continues.